All right, we can begin. Hello and welcome everyone. Um, Thank you so much for joining us today. And we are DesignAct. We are presenting today's discussion, which is stories from design higher education. Um, and I'll give a brief introduction on who we are and why we're doing today's program. My name is Nipuni, and I'm a designer and educator. Right now, I'm in Sri Lanka, and the DesignAct community is also mostly from Sri Lanka, although we do have participants joining us from around the world. And we are a community-driven movement. We believe in design, and we believe in the power of design for creating better futures. Um, we have designers and design enthusiasts both in this community, and we sort of want to encourage that multidisciplinary space. Today is also about that. We have people from different disciplines of design presenting what they did and why they did postgraduate studies in design. So a little bit of context on this series, what that design is. We collect a group of people from different areas. Last year, what we wanted to do was invite people, industry leaders, you can say, from different industries and get a sort of outside perspective on what they think about design. And this year we are focusing on design education because design education was really disrupted during COVID, and people are now thinking about new ways of delivering design education. So what does all that mean? How can we place ourselves in this kind of environment? So our lineup today, we have 6 community members, so to speak, talking about their experiences in design education after they did their undergraduate. So not all of them have a design undergraduate, which is very interesting, and that's an interesting path to take, as well as some of them changed their disciplines. Some of them found much more niche areas to do their graduate studies. So let's listen to all of that and see what kind of questions we have to ask from them today. And I'll let them introduce themselves as they speak. So each of them will speak to about 7-8 minutes, kind of like a rapid sharing, and then we will have the Q&A session. And I ask everybody to please keep your questions ready. And if you like, please put them on the chat. I will note them down and I will make sure that they get answered from the relevant people. So before we go ahead, I would also like everybody to please introduce themselves on the chat, tell us where you're from, and tell us one weird thing that you enjoy doing. So keep it not rude. So for me, something weird that I enjoy doing is vacuum cleaning. Like, I really like it. So much so that I will never buy one of those autonomous ones. So coming back to today's program, the presenters will tell us their stories. We'll have the Q&A session, like I mentioned before, and then we will introduce you to a new little program that we're trying out. It's we decided to call it DesignAct Props. We want to help as many people as we can to get the desired postgraduate design education that they like to get. So if we can share our knowledge in any way, our meaning, not mine personally, but our collective knowledge as a group. That's what we're trying to do. So hang on till the end of the discussion. Hiroshan, who's heading that program, will introduce that to you. So why did we initiate this? It is our community's goal to increase opportunities for design education and professional development in the little way we can. So this is kind of a first step. We want to build mutually beneficial and I use the word kind. I know we talked about being kind and generous and cordial work relationships among designers, because we are all in this together. And we want to facilitate a globally competitive design workforce for Sri Lanka, because we are based in Sri Lanka, most of us, and that is one of DesignAct's goals. Okay, so over to you, Alifiya. Welcome, and we're grateful for you to be here today. Take it away.
Thank you. Okay, cool. Hi, everybody. Thank you, Nitin, for making this happen as well. My internet connection is a little unstable, so if it's just dropping off too much, Tiffany, just let me know and I'll try and switch to like my phone or something like that.
Okay, sure.
Cool. So to introduce myself, I'm Alifiya, and I recently graduated in May from a transdisciplinary design program at Parsons School of Design, which is based in New York. I'm currently in Sri Lanka. I just came back recently. A little bit of my background, I also run something called Local Forecast, which is a platform for low emerging art and design brands here in Sri Lanka. And so we try to build a platform that supports a lot of independent, upcoming, more like illustration artists, homeware, clothing, design brands in reaching more international markets. Previously, prior to that, my background was in mechanical engineering. And from there, I worked in more industrial design, product development in Sri Lanka itself at MAS and in an industrial design studio, and then went into more environmental work. And I was introduced to more human-centered design methodologies and approaches in that. And from that is where I started applying it more in the environmental space at EFL. I then started working from Sri Lanka with a Singapore-based company, more in storytelling for like purpose-led businesses. And this led me to this program eventually as a way for me to develop more of a methodology in using design as a process in the work I was doing. So I can continue working in different sectors. Like I've worked in women's healthcare, I've worked in environmental issues, I've worked a lot in craft equity. So this gave me a little bit more of a methodology that I could continue using in applying it in these different ways. So moving into what exactly is a social design program is very broad. Maybe move to the next slide. Thank you. I've tried to keep this really brief. And this is in no way inclusive of everything a social design can be, but I'm very much speaking my experiences with one program, and then each program will have their own approach and method to it. And having said that, I also think going through a master's program is not the only route to do social design related work. You can be doing this through like your own self-taught ways, in many ways, learn it through work. It's just that I chose this as my opportunity because it came my way, and in many ways, like, yeah, I had the privilege of being able to participate in a master's program of some sort. So when we think about social design itself, most of the programs are geared and very focused on process. So it's not necessarily in interior design or graphic design or any of these things. I was in a transdisciplinary program. So it was people coming from different backgrounds, like mine was in mechanical. In my class, I had people who were coming from more public sector government work, from working in humanitarian issues. Then what does it mean to bring these different skill sets together to address social issues? And when we're talking about social issues, it can mean climate, urban issues, healthcare, public sector, any of these things. So it was very broad. And we had to like pick and choose and gear it in the ways we wanted to. Of it is we use design-led approaches, and what this was primarily methods like participatory design, speculative, futures-oriented design were some of the methodologies that we started building what the process looks like. And participatory and co-creative methods are primarily what does it mean to bring different people together who are most affected by these issues in solving them as well. For example, if you're thinking about like a waste solution issue, waste management in Colombo, it is like who is most affected by the waste management issue? Is it the waste pickers? Is it the place where the waste is being dumped? The houses around it? How are these people involved in addressing the solutions and part of like addressing how it's affecting them? And what are these methods and frameworks you can use in doing so? And then we talk a lot about systemic and collaborative approaches. So collaborative is like, it's not one individual who's making the decisions, or it's not the organization that's funding it. It's like, how are the people who are affected by this involved in these issues? And then we talk about the larger issue, like the larger system these things work within. It's like governance, it's around the city scale, it's about the individual scale, it's about the communities who are living there. How do they all get to participate and are affected by these things in different ways? And how do we think about those things when we're trying to design for social issues? And in the program itself, we ended up having primarily it's a mix of where you theory and discussion around the ethics of design. And we talk about critical design. It's a lot about reflecting on who you are as a designer, what is your responsibility, and why are you the person who like no reason to be involved in, and questioning the role of design. When we think about critical design, it's really as practitioners, how are we engaging with people? Who are we engaging with? Are the questions we ask in terms of like what power dynamics exist? If you're thinking about like class issues, if you're thinking about ethnicity issues, who has a say in what is getting made and how it's getting made. And so you start like thinking and questioning about the work that you're doing, and is it creating more issues, or is it really solving issues? And so primarily it's the process of how process focused in the sense, it's the process of how these things are designed and how it's step by step thought of for the outcome to then actually be something that's equitable for people, humans, non-humans, all who are going to be affected by these designs that we create at the end of the day. So that's like in the briefest, gistiest way that I can put that together. But this is in no way conclusive, but it's very much just like an introductory way as introducing you to social design if you're not familiar with it. And then moving on to the next slide. Nipuni? Okay, thanks. So I just included 2 projects that came out of some of the program work. On the first one is this project called Hum, which was done by a few alumni in my program. And this was looking at how can we design for families who are coping with loss and with death. And so this was just an example. It was like a product, but it was also a service for families to like heal together and look at what processing emotional loss could look like. So this was just one example of one thing. The other project is what I worked on for my thesis, which looked at more about our relationship with time, where it was looking at the concept of clock time and the origins of clock time and how it affects and how it has shaped our cultures and like identities in many ways. And what does it mean if we start questioning the origins of clock time and also more decolonial approaches of time. So a lot more on the speculative side, but just examples of what the spectrum and breadth of work in the social space of design could look like. Moving on to the next. So when selecting master's programs, I've tried to just give like some of the key things that I was thinking about going into the program. So in general, some of the programs, they have like research-based programs and thought programs, where research-based programs are less guided and directed. It's like you have an initial inquiry or a thematic area, that you enter the program with, and then the professors help you in exploring this question that you have gone into the program with. So it's heavily you drive the research in many ways. Whereas taught programs are a lot more conventionally like classroom oriented and studio work, where professors are guiding you and teaching you theory. And then you have room in your final year to like explore a shorter project, but it will be a shorter time frame. So what I did was more of a taught program at Parsons. And then other things to consider are if you're returning back to Sri Lanka or if you're choosing to stay on, wherever the program is, in that sense, like where the program is important, I think. Because majority of the socially focused design programs that are developed and well structured, from what I saw and researched, existed primarily in the EU, UK, and the US. And each of them have different aspects that come through when you're learning in this context. Whereas, for example, in the US, a lot of the issues, however international the programs are, and we had a lot of international students, a good amount of the attention will end up being on social structures and things like that within like American context. It will be like public sector in the US. It will be a lot of the topics and discussion will be very much oriented towards race and housing justice issues that are very American justice issues. And so it's important to have international programs, because international students in the program, because then they bring in the conversations that are more relevant to us as Sri Lankans or as South Asians, and what are the like issues that we are dealing with here, and how can we make that a part of the conversation, and how can we also look at how we can apply these frameworks in a Sri Lankan context. And when selecting programs, especially in the EU, I was finding quite a lot of them in the social space were, this is a blanket statement, so I don't want to say it at the same time, but there were quite a lot more European students in the program. And so there was Finland and things like that, great programs for sure. But I think it was, for me in my head, I was coming back to Sri Lanka or like South Asia in general. Thinking about the connection was important. And I've just also put in different types of roles that this sort of work can lead to. I'm going to be a design researcher / strategy. You work in consultancies. There's a lot of like futures design spaces. You can run your own thing as an entrepreneur, run your own as a design consultant, freelancer. And this can apply in like civic engagement, can work across like social sectors in general. But I can speak about a lot of these things later. So I'm only going through like these things very briefly. And if you want to like hear more, please reach out, because just for time's sake. And the next slide, please. This one I'll go through really quickly in terms of applications and funding. Most of the programs had a straightforward application process of they require a statement of purpose, which is like an essay. You need to have some sort of a portfolio, and it doesn't have to be a conventional design portfolio. They were very flexible and open in terms of what a portfolio could mean. It was just like creative, more visual formats of presenting work that you have done prior to the program. And I didn't have a design background. So I said it at the end, you don't need a design background per se. So it was very much like trying to just communicate what you have done prior to this in addressing relevant to the program work in visual formats in most ways. One thing that really helped me prior to the program in learning about what these things really meant, because sometimes the terminology felt very jargony and it was hard to understand like what these words actually mean in reality in doing it. Speaking to professors, to alumni and students who had graduated was the one thing that really helped. Like initially my questions were really dumb and I was a bit nervous to I was like, I don't know what the right question is to ask. But you start asking people, and I wrote to reach out to them just coldly on their emails through the website or through LinkedIn. And a lot of people do respond. And so it's like, as you do, the more you do that, the more clarity you get on what these programs are actually like. And scholarships, and in terms of funding, if it's the EU, a lot of programs are government funded. You can find a lot more affordable programs in Germany. The programs in Finland are quite have large scholarships. In the States, the one I went for, even at Parsons, they do have scholarships. I had a 75% scholarship, so it's a different. They don't always say it upfront. A lot of the time, you have to reach out to them and ask. Even when you ask, they're always like, maybe, maybe not. They never promise anything, but then it's like sometimes they do have scholarships. And the last slide, I won't talk through it, but I'll just put it up here for viewing. Is if you are interested in this, like places to start, I listed out some of the programs, and I've listed out some of the small organizations that I was interested in if you want to see what the actual projects can look like and what the work in this space looks like. So maybe even just take a screenshot of this or something, because I just threw in like starting points if you want to do some of your own research based on just a few ideas. And yeah, so feel free to get in touch. I'm happy to speak more about this. I'm going to stop now because I've gone way over time.
Thank you, Alifiya. Thank you so much. I think that was a great introduction, and this is a new area. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. Okay, we'll jump right. All right. We'll jump right ahead to Hiroshan.
Hello, hi everybody. I'm Hiroshan Weerawardana, and I'm a student from Georgia Tech, and I was a Fulbright Master Scholar from cohort 2021. So I will give a brief explanation about what's industrial design and what I'm doing at Georgia Tech, and then a bit more about Fulbright scholarship, how you can apply and why you should. Okay, next slide. Okay, first I have to give a disclaimer. So in this small talk, even I speak about Fulbright or Georgia Tech, I represent none of them. And so these are my own ideas. And yeah, so yeah, we can go to the next slide, I guess. So first I'll give a brief idea about me. So I'm a graduate from University of Mutaher, and I specialize in product design. And then I was in the industry for about 5 years. For about 3 years, I was in a research project at University of Mutaher. And then I was an industrial designer in Dangote Postal in Sri Lanka. So while I was in University of Mutaher, I always questioned, what am I doing? What's the product design? What is product design? And what are my limits and everything? So then while working, I realized now it's time to move on and to expand my boundaries. So then I started applying for universities and scholarships and everything. So this is about industrial design. So while I was doing product design, I had the same idea that industrial design is much similar to product design, that you are designing a product, a physical product for mass production and usage by mass amount of people. But when I came to Georgia Tech, it started change slightly, and now I have completed my year 1 and I'm entering my year 2. So now it has changed drastically. So this is an interpretation that I'd like to give on industrial design. So in my opinion, now what industrial design means, and this is the definition from World Design Organization. Industrial design is a strategic problem-solving process that drives innovation, builds businesses, success, and leads to a better quality of life through innovative products, systems, services, and experiences. So earlier in my year 1, my first projects were more focused towards industrial design, more physical products. Now I realized that I like to design systems and services more than products. I had more skills towards that. So Georgia Tech kind of like supports that, and we can design whatever we want at this point. And next slide. Okay, so everyone might think that this was really easy, and I know people who doesn't know me much might think that, okay, he applied and he got everything. But actually, it was really different from what it seems. So I actually started applying, I think, in 2018. So I think I applied for universities straight away, like for about 4 years. So all the first 3 years were like rejection from all the universities, but I kept applying. And So in my first year of applying to universities, I started developing my research proposals, statement of purposes and stuff. So I kept developing them and I kept developing myself. And so I think that's what happened with me. And I know that when I introduce you the Fulbright scholarship and its perks and everything, you'll definitely think that he might be an extraordinary student, might be having like being in the dean's list, maybe 7 out of 8 semesters, and being the batch top, having an exceptional GPA. None of them is true. And I'd like to think that I was an average student. I had an pretty average GPA, and I had average marks in my classes. But I think I gave 110% for everything what I did. Like when I was working on the project and while I was working in Dankoto Porcelain, I tried to give like 110% on everything. I think that was the only reason that I got here. And next slide, please. Okay, so Fulbright scholarship is a government-funded scholarship hosted by United States Department. So when the World War II ended, a senator called Sir William Fulbright had a good question. So what he said was that we have been spending so much money on the war. Now we have like so much excess money that we are not going to spend on war. So what should we do with that? So based on that, they came up with an idea. Okay, we are going to spend that money on the world for develop the knowledge about other cultures. And so the main idea, the essence behind the Fulbright program is cultural exchange. So what it does is it gives, I think, about 4,000 scholarships per year for foreign countries. So students can apply for masters, and there are several other programs that you can apply to. And then you can come here and you can learn about other people, other cultures. And since there are so many people coming to US for this Fulbright scholarship, and since they are creating the network, you get to know people. And because of that, you automatically would create the network, and again, you will get the prestige. So in our future slides, we are going to show you what might be the usual application process for universities in North America. But if you see here that the application process for Fulbright is a bit extended than the usual process. So in the usual process, you'd be applying for universities around November, December, and then you'd be entering universities next August. But for Fulbright program, the applications open on March. So first, they are going to be the application. It's an in-depth application. There are some things that you have to do. You have to write a bit. And then if you get qualified from the initial application filtering stage, then you have to face about 3 stages of interviews, I think. And then if you get selected through the interviews, then that's all you have to do. Because in the Fulbright program, if you get selected for the Fulbright program, as soon as you get selected, they would be assigning an advisor for you from Institute of International Education in USA. So they would be the people who would be filling applications for you for universities and applying and doing all the process. So it's a bit simple than applying yourself for other universities in a way, but definitely you have to go through the initial process of applying for the scholarship. And next slide. Okay, so now you might think why you should apply. So as I mentioned before, you are getting an assistance in applying for universities when you are doing the scholarship, when you are applying for the other universities. And again, there's the prestige. So I think Fulbright is considered in the top range of all the scholarships in the world, and you'd be automatically getting a network around the world. And again, the most important part would be funding for us, I think. So in Fulbright program, it's free to apply for the Fulbright program. If you get selected, then they're funding you from air ticket to air ticket. I mean, yeah, I mean, they even funded for IELTS and TOEFL for me as well. So to be honest, I had to pay for nothing. So they pay my tuition and they pay monthly stipend, they pay insurance and everything. And again, their tickets. And there are so many enrichment programs in USA that to create network and to increase your knowledge about other people, about other cultures and how to live and everything. And then even I felt that while you are applying, even within the application process, you learn a lot. So what I was trying to say is that you might think that is, I mean, this is a prestigious scholarship. I mean, you might think that this is not something that you can get selected to, that is not something that you should pay your time on. But my opinion is this is something that you should try, because I mean, if you get selected, there are so many perks. But let's say you didn't get selected, you'll learn a lot throughout the application process itself. And I mean, see, I believe you are here since you are pursuing higher education somewhere. I mean, within the application process, you'd be developing your statement of purposes and research proposals, etc. So you'll definitely have them automatically. And next slide, Nipani. Okay, and there are some requirements to be eligible for Fulbright program. First, you have to be a citizen in Sri Lanka, and you have to reside in Sri Lanka for 2 years continuously when you are applying. And you have to have a 4-year bachelor's degree or equivalent. So, I mean, if you have a 3-year degree, then if you have a diploma, then it's possible. And again, you have to have worked in Sri Lanka at least 1 year full time. And you can't possess any other degree from USA, and you can't apply for a US permanent residency when you are applying for a Fulbright scholarship. And if you are interested, we can give you more information regarding this, and please feel free to reach to us. And next slide, Nipuni. Yeah, that's all. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Hiroshan. And sorry, everybody, about the glitch. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, all good.
Yes.
Yes, okay, right. Dharana, you can take it away. Thank you.
Yeah, hope I'm audible enough.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Nipuni. Hello, everyone. My story is going to be a bit different and a bit out from the scientific stuff, right? But well, as you see, I'm Dharana Semasinghe. I currently am a lecturer to the Department of Integrated Design of Università of Moratuwa, Sri Lanka, where the same place I earned my bachelor's degree in graphics and communication design. And also I am an entrepreneur too. I was in the industry, advertising and marketing industry for more than a decade. And I'm kind of a person who has a lot of interest streams in life, like, basically teaching, communication designing. Well, apart from those, boring stuff, I'm a sportsman, a globetrotter, a musician, and the list goes on. Yeah. That is just to, digest my flamboyant journey, which I'm going to share with you all. Coming back to the timeline, after some time, I earned my master's in media and communication from London. Actually, it's University of Greenwich. This is where this shareworthy story happens. Nikuni, next slide, please. Yeah. First thing you should know about your higher studies is the passionate purpose of that earning. I repeat, passionate purpose. As we know, passion is do what you love, and the purpose is do what contributes. Yeah, it's crucial and critical to graduate with honors and fascinating grades, but that paper needs to stand for something more. Why waste time and effort even on academics, right? When you really don't want to have it in your bucket. most probably when you got one chance at life, right? In our lifetime. Well, I'll share my story. Nipuni, next slide. Yeah. I'm kind of a person who always gives a weightage to practice-based learning. In common, it is almost impossible and hard, also rare to find a custom-tailored, specially taught masters to fit into your personal likings and expectations. In this case, you have to be smart and tricky from my point of view. In my case, as a musician, a vocalist, a dubbing artist, and a communication designer, I realized that I really want to incorporate this auditory factor in my studies. I really like the curriculum we had in our master's course, but in the University of Greenwich, but still, I found it was hard to get most out of it towards my very personal likings. So what I did was calibrating my desire into each and every assignment of the modules we had to follow. And Nipuni, next slide, please. Yeah. I know this might sound a bit bold and crazy, but each and every assignment submission I delivered had to do something with auditory aspect in it. As a communication designer who has been into advertising, I established my interest area at sonic branding or sound branding. If I hum, yeah, most of you might have recognized that sound as and recall Coca-Cola. That is sonic branding, very briefly. Or you may call it sound branding. I managed to make a signature cocktail out of this master's program. Masters of Arts in Media and Communication was the alcoholic base of the cocktail, while sonic branding became the modifier and garnished with some science and dash of aesthetics. Show you a very little example I did. This is not a hope you all hear me, because I got a message saying that my connection is unstable. Am I audible enough?
Yeah, it's better. You're back. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. I will show you a very teeny tiny little example I did. This is not a major thing, but still, you will be able to get an idea about what I did in each and every module, because this was not a major submission as well of a module, but an interim icebreaker. This piece of animation I created was an initial idea generator for the study of communicative visual elements of media work module. The name was media work. And we resided at the right next to the page. So I tried to align with this vibe and I see in the streets. Olympic with sonic branding, which there was no single clue about sonic practice in it at all. But I managed to find the secret ingredient to achieve my desire, to fulfill my desire. I realized there were few big brands, very big brands sponsoring for the event who had been in a good practice in sonic branding. I found that their branding and the brand identities together strengthened the brand Olympic itself. And those individual brand identities penetrated into this brand and collaboratively created the brand identity of 2012 Olympics. Nipuni, can we play the next video clip, please?
Okay.
Dedication, determination, discipline, fashion, Adidas phenom.
I'm loving it.
Yeah. To the final slide, Nipuni. There is a common and very popular saying. Sorry. Yeah. You'll never work a day in your life if you are really doing something you love. That's a very common statement, but I applied the same thing into my master's degree. Thank you.
Thank you, Dharana. Love how you experimented with both things that you were
You're
doing.
welcome.
Thank you. Okay, so Amani, you're up next.
Thank you, Nipuni. Good evening, everybody. So my name is Amani, and I'll not be turning the camera on because we have the infamous electricity cuts, and I want to avoid glitches. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. So I did my bachelor's at University of Moradua at the Department of Integrated Design, and where I specialized in fashion and lifestyle design. Then I did my master's in fashion culture and management at University of Bologna, Italy. So I want to kind of like take you through my journey from this fashion perspective specifically. Nipuni, can you go to the next slide? Nipuni, yeah, okay. So I know that not everybody is from the fashion field or fashion industry. So I'll just tell you a little, like as brief as I can say, if you ask me what is fashion. So what we do is when we are designing, when we are bringing fashion and design together, I believe that we are designing solutions. This is what we are doing, right? So we whether it is about personal identity, or whether it is about communication, whether it is an expression, whether it is merely for the purpose of beautification, whatever it is, we are designing a solution for a human, right? It may come out of different forms. It can be something that you wear. It can be an outfit. It can be a garment. It can be an adornment. It can be a jewelry. So either way, we are designing, we are giving a solution. So that's the simplest that I can put. And you are seeing some of my work from the university on top. And then you're seeing some of my work when I did practicing as a designer in the Sri Lankan fashion industry. Which after my bachelor's, I worked for 3 years. And then, okay, next slide. So that comes to the question, why a fashion postgrad qualification? So as I said before, after I got my bachelor's, I worked here, but I realized that something was missing in myself. I had I had goals. So I had a passion to kind of like go forward in the academia. I wanted to take part in that. So I realized, so yes, I've gained skills, I've gained knowledge. In a bachelor's, you do that. But how about exactly defining where I want to go, what do I want to do, right? So there is always a niche, because if you say fashion, there are a lot of paths that you can take. You can talk about fashion designing, like you can basically like go forward way into design, or you can study about fashion management, you can study about fashion marketing, you can study about how that comes with the society or culture, or you can study about sustainability practices. So a postgrad will help you to find that path, exactly what niche am I supposed to do. So then secondly, you can also learn how to grow. Basically, if you are, even though we learn the theories, we learn how to practice them a little bit, we gain the skills and knowledge. We will learn how to grow. If you are a fashion entrepreneur, you will learn how to grow your business. If you are into academics, you will learn how to grow into that. You will learn how to do more research. You will learn how to do publications. Thirdly, a postgrad will also give you real world experiences, because sometimes in bachelors we tend to do the things that we kind of like for ourselves, right? We try to kind of like live in a small bubble, I must say. But when you're doing a postgrad, you're dealing with a lot of parties, so that kind of gives you the real world experience. Finally, networking. The word networking was used, I think, almost in all four previous or three previous presentations, because it's really important if you're a designer, the element of networking. So you get to know people, you go places. So all of these things you will be able to get the moment you decide you want to do a postgrad. Okay, the next slide. So the question that I had when I was thinking about doing a postgrad, doing a master's, where would I go? So if you are in the fashion, if you kind of like in the fashion field, you already know the 4 countries to go to if you want to. Say either you might want to live in New York in America, or maybe you want to go to London in United Kingdom, or you might want to try Paris, or you might in France, or you might want to go to Italy. So for me, also the same, but I was more interested in European Union as a whole, because I mean, the opportunities were kind of more open, to say, and it seemed more convenient to reach. That is one reason. So Italy, as separate, it is a fashion inspiration. It's more like a cultural inspiration to begin with, right? You see the buildings, you see how people are eating, you see how people are singing. You basically, everything that is there, the art, everything is an inspiration. So that was one, that was a poetic reason. That was not a logical reason that I had, but it was just a fascination. Secondly, the Italian universities are one of the oldest and the most prestigious universities in the world, specifically the one that I studied, University of Bologna. You can see that it started in the year 1088. So that means it's almost more than 900 years for this university. The second picture you see is one from Bologna. So again, so those were kind of like the reasons that I focused on when making the decision. Next slide. Okay, so here, the third and the most important part is funding or scholarships. I know that this might be a concern for many people, because the moment that you start thinking about higher studies, we think like, okay, so all the expenses, how are we going to manage them? I personally would like to tell you that there are plenty of scholarships, plenty of opportunities available if we look hard enough, or if we kind of like, do our research enough. Here I've put 2 screenshots from my university as an example. One is the first one you see on your left is the one from my specific program. The second one is from the university. You can see that there are study incentives on the first picture. You can see that there are exemptions, for international students, then study grants, there are housing and residencies, there is the university canteens, there's also the Ergo, which is the regional authority. And then the next one is not really relevant to us because it's for Chinese students. Then the last one is a study prize that is based on merit, actually. Then on the second picture, you can see from the top, there's the Unibo Action 1 and 2. So I'm telling you, most of these, the first one, the second one, and the fifth one, and the sixth one, all of these are, we are eligible. The Sri Lankan students, if you have a 4 years or 3 years even, I think for some, 3 years bachelor's degree, you can literally apply for these. But also there are some other requirements that you need to do. For example, for Unibo Action 1 and 2, you need to do GRE. I think almost all of you must know what is GRE. So you need to do that, and then you need to score a high score, and then you will be given this monetary fund. So for me as well, I applied for this first year. Yes, you have to basically initially you have to spend some money, but for the second year and for the first year, even for the after say 3 months, you will be receiving these financial benefits. So, okay, the next slide. Then my next points are the industry exposure and collaborations that you get. The pictures here you see are the collaborations that we had with certain brands. Both the brands that you see on your right side are Italian fashion brands, and these are some marketing campaigns that we did. And the first picture on your left is it was a competition, and where we kind of collaborated with a sportswear brand, and we designed. So you will get plenty of industry exposure, and there'll be a lot of collaborations the moment you start working in the postgrad. Okay, the next slide. I put some pictures of myself and my friends just to show you the variety of the people. So this is the program that I went to. It was in English medium, and this was an international program. It was not in Italian. And I just put these pictures because you can see literally some people are from China, Mongolia. There's one from United States. There's one from Tunisia, which is in Africa. There's one from Colombia, one from Russia, one from Slovakia, and one from Iran. So you literally had half the world. I mean, not half the world, but you get what I mean. So it was an extremely interesting and an eye-opening period of my life. So you can have this network. And there's the Erasmus program. If you just search a little bit about it, you will see that you can go to other countries as well, not only Italy. Say for my program, so when I enrolled for 2 years, I automatically get the opportunity to complete 1 semester in another European country, right? And you can also get internships in other countries, and you will also get payments for those. So there are a lot of mobility programs. Okay, Nipuni, the next slide. I'll go fast. So really think about what you want to do if you want to go into academia, or say, as I said before, whatever the stream that you want to specialize in, because in a master's, that's what you want to do. And think about the country and the city. This will also be decided with your passions, yourself, and how you are actually, and then whether you want to do a course-based or a research-based. I recommend, if you are the program that I did, it was a course-based one, and there are also research-based masters. If you're going into academia, that will be more helpful. Whether you want to do full-time or part-time, and there are some entry requirements, grades, exams, and maybe portfolios. For my program, I had an interview. But I want to highlight that not every student was having a fashion bachelor's degree. There were some people who had marketing. There were some people who had language. So there were different people from different backgrounds in terms of the bachelor's specialization. Okay, the next slide. Okay, so this is roughly the path. It took only 6 months for myself. I started applying in March and I was able to leave the country by September. So you first have to research a lot. Oh, I didn't really put this research part into the 6 months because I was searching for I was reading, let's say 4 months prior. So the year before December. And then I chose the best option for me. And then you obviously have to have your portfolio. If you don't have the portfolio, then there'll be a replacement. You can always write to the university and they reply real quickly. And they're very helpful. Usually almost all the professors and all the coordinators that I've worked with, they are really, really helpful. So you want to prepare also for GRE and IELTS. And once you apply for university and once you get the admission, then you can apply for scholarships and then finally the visa process. Okay, Nipuni, I think I'm done. The next slide.
Okay, thank you, Mani.
That's it.
Is this your last slide?
I think, can you go to the next slide?
Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay, so one last thing, I'm sorry.
Yes,
so there's also the way that you see things, challenges, opportunities. I want to specifically talk about Europe Union. So if you're going to a country in Europe, it's really important that you learn their language because not all countries will use English as much as we would like them to. So of course the programs might be in English, but if you want to really integrate yourself into that society, it's important that you learn not to be extremely fluent, but you can learn up to at least A1, A2 level. So that way you can blend with them and you can balance the learning and the life in between. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mani. Immersing yourself in the country is really, really important. And I'm sure doing fashion design in Italy, there's no better place for it.
Definitely.
Okay, yes. So let's go to Piyum. And I know Pathum also has to get going at 8:15, he said, so we have just enough time to talk to you both. Go ahead.
Cool. Thanks, Nipuni. Hello, everyone. So I'm Piyum Fernando. I am originally from Negombo, Sri Lanka, and right now I'm in Negombo actually. But I live in Cupertino, California. I work at Amazon. I recently finished not recently, into December 2020, I finished my PhD in human-computer interaction. So today I'm going to talk about my journey through academia and why I did what I did. And yeah, let's start. So next slide, please. Yeah, so let's talk about human-computer interaction. Before I start talking about my journey, let's talk about human-computer interaction field a little bit. Next slide, please, Puni. Yeah, so human-computer interaction is the field of study that focuses on the interaction between humans and computers. So what happens usually is the human think the computer is dumb and the computer think the human is dumb. So to make both of these sides smarter is the role of human-computer interaction as a field, right? So next slide, please. So if we go back to the early days of HCI, human-computer interaction, so it was mainly interacting with this big box of a computer. So the design of the mouse, the keyboards, and Windows-based interaction, the screen interaction. So those are the main focus of the computer in this field. Next slide, please. So in the early days, so there were like 4 main fields that actually contributed to create this new field of study. So human factors, cognitive science, applied psychology, and computer science. So these were the main fields that actually we can call these are the roots of human-computer interaction. Next slide, please. But nowadays we have a lot of other things, like the computer is not just a big box that you put in a room or office room. So now it is everywhere. So there are a lot of wearable computers, AR, VR, and ambient AI, smart home appliances, and also a lot of social media. So now the field of HCI is about everything, like everything related to computers and humans and how we interact with these computers. So next slide, please. So because of that, so computers are socially relevant. There are a lot of impact to the ethics or politics and everything. So because of that, the field is like expanded. And right now we have like a lot of social scientists doing HCI, visual designers, human-centered designers, industrial designers, political scientists, and also a lot of people who are working on ethics and also other fields like journalism. So right now it's a very multidisciplinary field. So the reason I'm telling you this is like, no matter from which field or like from which background you're coming from, you can actually go into like study human-computer interaction in your higher studies. Next slide, please. Okay, let's go through my journey. Next slide, please. Yeah, I know I have a lot of slides. Okay, so I started at University of Mutaher. So I did my undergrads in computer science and engineering at Faculty of Engineering in University of Mutaher in 2008 to 2012. And I started working as a software engineer at WSO2. Yeah, I mean, at that time, it was my dream and kind of like most, like all of my batchmates liked to work at WSO2, and I was enjoying that. But what happened was, like, even though I was enjoying being a software engineer, I didn't want to retire or die as a software engineer. So I was thinking, so there's something more to me, and I mean, my passion is like much more, like it's broader than just being a software engineer. So I started thinking about, so what are the fields I can explore? So my undergrad supervisor introduced me to the field of HCI. And then I decided to go to Singapore and join Singapore Institute of Technology and Design. That is the place I actually started learning and exploring human-computer interaction as a field. So I worked in a lot of smart home projects and wearable computing projects. And I realized, okay, this is my passion. So this is what I want to do until I die. So I decided, okay, I want to learn a lot. There are a lot of things to learn. So I decided to do a PhD in HCI because it will give me like 5 years to explore HCI. So I moved to USA. I joined Arizona State University. So there I did my PhD between 2015. I finished in 2020. So it's like 5.5 years. Next slide, please. So after graduating, I joined Amazon. Currently, I work at Amazon in the Amazon devices section. I work on smart eyewear project. So this product called Echo Frames, it is actually in the market. I don't think it is available in Sri Lanka, but I think in USA and in some parts of Europe, it is available. So I'm working in this, but it will take a few years to the project I'm working on to come to the market. But yeah, so this is what I do right now. Next slide, please. So yeah, I want to share about like what drove me to a PhD in HCI, why I decided to do a PhD in HCI. So the first thing is my passion for research. When I was in WSO2, I realized, okay, I want to do things that other people haven't done, or I want to explore things that other people haven't explored yet. So so I realized, yeah, that's research. So I want to do a research degree, not a taught degree. So that's why I decided to do a PhD. And then why particularly about HCI? So I kind of realized I like the human aspects of technology, the front end, or the things that actually go, like I was doing a lot of back end engineering work at WSO2, but I wanted to be much more closer to the people I'm designing or engineering for. So I wanted to learn the human aspect of technology. So that's another reason. And I really like the multidisciplinary nature of the field of HCI, because so you saw all this the circles I put there. It is like really like inherently a very multidisciplinary field. So I started loving that. So these were the reasons I decided to do a PhD in HCI. Next slide, please. Yeah, so why Arizona State University? So there are 3 reasons for that as well. So because I'm coming from an engineering field, I didn't want to go to an engineering school. I wanted to go to a school that teaches arts, design, and humanities. So ASU had this a strong background in these fields. So I decided to go there. And also my supervisor, like I was the first student of my supervisor. She was just starting. So because of that, I had a lot of freedom to explore what I want to do. So that was another reason. And also, yeah, PhD is 5 years, so you have to do things you like to do. So I like the trails around the university, and also the mountains. There are a lot of mountains that we could climb. So that was another reason. Yeah, next slide, please. Okay, so overcoming challenges. Next slide. Yeah, so what I realized is PhD is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So I spent first 4 years not knowing where the finish line is. So the hardest thing or the most challenging thing for me was to just run without knowing when you're going to finish this, or not knowing where the finish line is. So like it's like walking through a tunnel without seeing the light for like for 4 years or so. So that's the nature of PhD, especially if you're doing a 5-year PhD. So until your last year or so, you don't see much happening, but it's actually happening. So next slide, please. That's fine. So those are, I mean, there were a couple of slides left, but that's fine. So if you think HCI is your cup of tea, if you want to do higher studies in HCI, let's have a chat. Let's find a way to keep in touch and discuss more. Thank you very much.
Okay. And yes, so Piyum says, if HCI is your cup of tea, let's have a chat. We will make the slides available to you. So don't worry if you missed that. I'm sorry again. Internet is not the best today. Okay, let's move on to Pato, our last speaker for today.
Okay, you guys can hear me. I'm not going to turn on the video because there's no power. And okay, I'm going to be a bit quick. So I'm there is a small so I'm a typeface designer. Anybody, can you go to the next slide, please? Next slide, please. Yeah, so I make fonts. That means I design typefaces and test and engineer them to properly work on intended contexts on all platforms. So you can see like I'm talking about like designing, testing, and sort of engineering and intended contexts and platforms. Well, these are some keywords that I will touch upon. I hope you like all know what a font is as a designer. And I mostly work on Sinhala fonts, a bit of Dharana and a bit of Tamil. Dharana is the script of Maldives, and for my master's thesis project, I designed a Dharana typeface. Nipuni, can you go to the next slide, please? So just to give like some context, before the masters, I did my master's in typeface design at University of Reading. But before that, actually, like during my BA itself, I found a niche. I loved letter forms. So after completing my BA, I found myself working at an advertising agency, but I was not loving it. And I was working on a lot of type design projects and research documentation projects, and sort of projects that were bordering on art projects and type projects during my master's, and I wanted to sort of explore that area. So with help of the community, I was able to actually present my project at Typo Day 2014 in Pune. Like for me, this is a really like important milestone in my personal life as well as my life in general, because that event sort of defined my career, because my project was very well received there. I got a lot of attention for the project, and it was well timed as well. This was and this actually like made a lot of impact on my work in the later years when I try to like give back. Like throughout the talk today, I'm going to talk about like giving back and sort of like how we can give back to the community. So after my time like Typo Day, like when I sort of was exposed into type design world, font design world, I start working on font projects. I was active on forums, built networks and connections. I learned the tools and read the specifications. This is like really important when you're going into a program, like when you're transforming and your headspace from sort of a regular or like a graphic designer from a bachelor's degree to a, this is I'm not like marking a line, but in the academia, sort of like starting to pay attention to like how things work, and asking like another layer of why is that. What I realized that that sort of stepping into master's education meant asking another layer of why instead of stopping at a certain level. So here I was in 2015 Wage. I wanted to study typeface design. I had some money saved from work I did for a few other companies. I was looking at scholarships. I was talking to the global community. Because of the forums, and because I was really active in the forums and contributing to open source projects in the niche area that I found, I was known actually in the industry, like that, this small niche industry as well. So I was faced with I had to choose a design school. I wanted to plan the next steps. And next slide, please, Nipuni. Like there are so many really good type design programs around the world, but there are like popular or like well-known two master's programs. One from the KBK, the Royal Academy of Arts in The Hague, have a type and media program, a master's program. And the next slide, please, Nipuni. And this is from the University of Reading. These two images are taken from the student displays of those two programs. Nipuni, can you switch back to the previous slide, please, again? I want you guys to sort of like just look at and just guess which school, which department is situated in the arts or crafts sort of based sort of like context, and which department is based on in the humanities or more research driven. That's not the right word. No, research driven, like even an art based project could be research driven, but the fundamental thinking of type as a visual object and a cultural object might differentiate. So even though you might when you're looking at education, especially in niche areas, you might have if you only have like few different options, or if there are like major players in the area, they might have like significantly different views or approaches. So but that's not a good that's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. So naturally, can you go to next slide? Actually, slide after that. Yeah, next one, please. Yeah. So yeah, I qualify. I can be classified as a nerd, I guess. So I I scraped the websites, and I like, you know, like I was anyway making a catalog for another project, and I scraped the web and collected all the publicly available information about the graduates from the program that I was going, and you know, their employment history, where they were at after a few years, and all sorts. And I realized people going from the MATD program, Masters in Typeface Design program, ended up in different places doing not just typeface design itself, but working in publication design, design direction, and all sorts of other places as well. Whereas the project, most of them became like really good type designers, like doing full-time typeface design. So they are like, you know, my reasons for designing type and then getting into type design was very specific. I didn't yeah, I wanted to study. I had specific goals about like why I wanted to study Sinhala typography, do the masters to study specific area and study the historical aspect of Sinhala type development. And therefore I chose and also career wise, I didn't see myself as a full-time completely committed typeface designer, but I saw myself as a more of a cultural, like a editorial designer at that point. Can you go to the next slide, please? You can, Nikuni. Yeah, next slide. This is an image taken from the first page of the thesis font project I designed. So for almost like 8 months, we spent working on a multi-script font project. This is a very type design itself is a very iterative process, and the learning environment in the program, we had only 14 people in the class, and I was the second youngest at age of 24. It was really good experience, and the age the age distribution and curation was like well thought out. And I realized like in environment in environments, especially in smaller communities, it's smaller learning communities, it's especially like important to have a diversity but also compatibility that work together. So you can see it's a mixture of all three languages and multiple styles. So we didn't work on all the letters for these styles. For example, the regular style, the regular Latin style that you can see, I've worked on most of those characters. But yeah, and actually, Maname, only one style of this font is now so far released. Others have made their way into other projects, but never sort of realized. Can you go to the next slide, please? Yeah, so practicing typeface design in a collaborative environment was important. And next slide, especially with easy access to rich curated archives. The department, next slide, please. Sorry, next, please. Yes, so the department have really like valuable archives at fingertips, fingertips, and very rich sort of curated sessions, weekly sessions by people like Michael Twyman, who have worked extensively on history of Western and European graphic design. It is really interesting to learn these histories of typography, because typography is, until the time typography was brought into Sri Lanka and established as a discipline in 1737, it is a foreign science to us. It is a completely Western science to us. For example, the famous Panadura debates, which were held between the Sinhala missionaries, the British missionaries and the monks of the Sri Lankan Buddhist movement of the 1800s. The people who were representing the missionaries, they were from the Wesleyan Mission Press, and the Wesleyan Mission Press, ironically, even though they were having these public debates against Buddhism, Wesleyan Mission Press is the single most important entity that contributed to development of Sinhala letter form in the 19th century. And it is important to understand that I felt lack of perspective, sometimes like lack of information, lack of representation or lack of vocabulary and lack of ideas to capture some of the things that we were looking at. And also I have to acknowledge that most of the items or things that items or things that we need, artifacts we need to study our own, development of our own script, are kept in the British Library, and there, and we have to be very privileged to be there and touch these materials and look at them. And just a fun fact, you're looking at the Gil Sands Sinhala draft, which never saw the light, which was proposed in the 1980s by the 1970s at Monotype office. Next slide, please. Yeah, again, like attention to details and sort of having this context where for 1 year you're looking at letter forms very closely in 10x zoom and printing things out and looking at this is my good friends Kostas and Tanya, both award-winning type designers. Tanya and Kostas both have been to Sri Lanka. Tanya has been to here few times actually. That is something that I personally have tried over the years to actually invite these guys over, and whenever they are here, have a community build here as well. Can we jump to the next page, please? Next slide. Again, next.
Yeah, Patam. Let's wrap up.
Yes.
Is there something that you really want to share?
Yeah, I think we can. Yeah, if you can just go to the last slide. I think that the last two slides are I just have the story there. Yeah. just next. Oh, yes. Yeah, if you can just stop there and I'll
Okay.
finish from there. If you can just take one
Sure.
back.
Yep.
Yeah, one slide back, please. Yeah, this is, I just wanted to show you guys this slide. In 2018, we tried to introduce a new name, a new word for typography, but it never picked up. But in 2020, with the community, we proposed a new word, Ruakura, for Sinhala word for the font, and it picked up. So I think, knowledge transferring and trying to sort of, working towards bringing that knowledge, that's what we have to work towards. Thank you. Sorry.
No worries, Patum. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing all that content. So just for the sake of time, I'm sorry I had to cut you off, but we will share the set of slides with everyone. And we will also share the recording of the talk today. And if anybody wants to reach out to any of our speakers, they can do so. But before we wrap up, are there any immediate questions from anyone? If you can put it on the chat. Okay, so we have one question from Oshadi. Oshadi is saying, I would like to, and I hope I'm saying your name right, I would like to know what are the after degree opportunities in Seattle for UX designers, social designers, or product designers. So the social design aspect, Oshadi, Alifiya had to leave a little bit early, but I think the UX design aspect, probably Piyum can answer to that.
Yeah, Ushadi. Yes, Nipuni, actually, I have a slide which I couldn't present. Can you go to the last slide of mine, like last or so Ushadi, yeah, in Seattle, there are, yeah, this is the one. So in Seattle, like it's a kind of one of the tech hubs in USA. So all the big companies are there. Google is there, Amazon is there. I think Apple, Microsoft, especially. Yes, so there are a lot of opportunities for UX designers and product designers, and also so Google call this personal interaction design, and also if you do like a research master's or research based PhD, you can be a UX researcher and also an R&D scientist in that field. Yeah, so basically there are two streams. You can work on research side, be a research scientist, Samsung Research, Amazon Lab 126, Microsoft Research, and if not, you can go to the product side and be a UX designer, interaction designer, or a UX researcher. Yeah.
Thanks, Piyum. And yes, if you, do we have any more questions? Immediate questions? Okay, Stefan is asking, I'm pursuing graphic design at the moment, and for my bachelor's, do you feel it's a must to, okay, so Stefan's asking, is it a must to pursue a master's? And what are some options to look for? Probably Patum, you can answer. And if anybody else would also like to take a jab at that, you're most welcome to.
I'm sorry, what was the initial objective of, I mean, for doing continue with the career, or to continue with higher studies? What is the objective? Can you just repeat the question?
Yeah, so
Right, it's
Stefan
here,
is
right?
asking, yeah. Is it,
Yeah,
it's on the chat. They're asking, is it a must to pursue a master's?
Actually, it depends, right? Because if you really want to pursue, I mean, continue studying, or else if you are planning to build up a career, I think that first you need to decide that. And then only it's always to, doing and continuing studies is always a must. But I think from my point of view, because I was a graphic designer too, and to conquer in that particular field, I think you don't need, not necessarily need to have a master's, as I experienced in this local context. But
right.
I myself decided to, go into the next level of from that particular field, and it's totally up to you, right? It depends on the career objective and all.
Yeah, and bringing back some of the things that we talked about today, right? How do you maybe differentiate yourself from others, and maybe you want to find a niche for yourself. And Alifiya was talking about maybe you want to grow your own business and you need more knowledge on that. And like maybe Dharana, you want to explore, like combine a few of your passions and explore that further. So I think we heard a lot about, right, that idea of exploration and being curious. And Amani and I think a few others also talked about, and Hiroshan also, like where you are also matters to your growth. Going to a different country, figuring out how to live there, making international connections. So all that is you growing as a designer and you growing as a person, experiencing that culture and context also. So we can definitely chat about that for sure. And Oshadi, also to your question, I think we can connect you to Piyum and anybody else who can sort of answer that in more detail and depth, very specific questions on what's happening in the US and how can you earn while you're a student and what are options. So let's keep that a little bit for later. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and hand it over to Hiroshan. And this is a perfect segue because we are opening up a little program where we can connect people who have experience in masters and PhDs and other diplomas in postgrad to those who are interested in doing them. So Hiroshan, please take it away.
Yeah, can you all see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so before introducing the program, I just want to share why we thought about starting a program like this. So within the DesignAct community, we had this discussion regarding, we had this discussion regarding what were the struggles that we had when we tried to embark in higher education journey. And in our time, I mean, that was when we started, I think that was at least 2 or 3 years ago. So we didn't have much opportunities to like go for advisors. I mean, we didn't have much people to ask the questions that we did have to ask. And sometimes we felt dumb that this might be a stupid question, that it might like embarrass myself by asking this. So we realized that there should be a platform where people can express their ideas and ask the questions that they wanted to ask. And again, another critical point was we realized that we spent a lot of time experimenting on what were the right ways, what were the wrong ways, etc. So I mean, personally, I tried about 3 years, and I was successful in the 4th year. So what we felt was that there is the expertise that generated by people who did the experiment. So why should the people who are trying to embark on this journey, experimenting, wasting their valuable time. I mean, if we can share that, there would be people who can absorb that knowledge and they can start immediately. So that was the main reason behind this program. So I'm gonna introduce the program. So this is called DesignAct Props. So in this program, what we are trying to do is, I mean, it's obvious that if you join this program, that's mainly because you had an interest in higher education in a foreign country. So from the people who joined this program, in the next minutes, we will be sharing a Google form that you can fill. It might take maybe some hours or several hours or maybe a day or two. So based on that, what we are trying to do is we are going to pick people who has the most potential to apply and be successful in higher education this year. I mean, there's no discrimination or anything. I mean, the main reason is, since this is the first time that we are trying this program, there are very limited resources that we have. So, I mean, all of us are like, sometimes some are students, some are working. And because of that, there's a capacity that we can take. So we are trying to take the maximum amount that we can take. And we are trying to advise or share our expertise on one-on-one sessions with the people that we select. So for that, as an initiative, like we are going to share a Google form with you, so you can share your details on that. And then based on that, we are going to pick the people we are going to select for the first cycle. And the program is going to start.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead, Nimani.
Yes, Hiroshan, I already shared the Google form because I felt people were kind of leaving because probably we went a little bit over time. I already shared on the chat.
Okay, yeah, the forms in the chat. So you can maybe copy the link because you might not have that when we end the program. So fill it out and reach back to us. And in the meantime, so this is the application process in North America. So usually the application process starts on November. So there are some requirements that you need for applications. As an example, you'll be needing IELTS, TOEFL, GRE, and you'll be need a statement of purpose, a research proposal, and especially if you are trying to start on a design program, there's a very good chance that they might require a portfolio from you. And then when the applications open, you have to fill the applications, and then the decisions usually come around March and April. So, and then there's the application accepting process, and then there's an administrative process. And again, the classes start on August. And I had to mention that this is for the fall intake in North America. So it might slightly differ for Europe and other countries. So these are the items that you might need for your applications. So I'll give a brief explanation about each item. A statement of purpose, kind of like your life story. So it might mention that why you want to pursue higher education, what brought you here, and your thinking and what you want to do, things like that. And research statement is something that where your interest in research lies and what you want to pursue and what you're going to learn about, things like that. And obviously, if you are already or you have already graduated from university, you'll definitely have your degree certificate and transcript with you. But like if you are applying, I mean, if you are still in the university, you might be able to get, there's a process that you can get an unofficial transcript before you graduate. And again, you'll be needing a CV or a resume. And for most universities, you might need 3 recommendation letters. Some might ask for 2, and in exceptional cases, some might ask for 4, but that's very rare. And for outsiders from US, there are special requirements that you have to complete IELTS and TOEFL. I'm sure that you are familiar with this. And again, there's another method called GRE that tests your vocabulary, your knowledge in English, and your communication skills, and again, your analytical skills, and again, the portfolio. So portfolio is anything that expresses what you have done, what you can do, what you feel like, what you think like, and your skills, etc. So it can be a website, or it can be a Behance page, Instagram, YouTube, or it could be a printed portfolio, a PDF or something like that. So it's up to you. So these things take time to develop. I think it might take maybe at least a couple of months from start to end to get into a good stage. So I think that's all I have regarding this program right now. As I mentioned earlier, we are planning to start the program on 15th next month. So we have already sent the link for the forum, and so you can fill it out. So we'll know what are your interests and everything. And
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you very much,
anything else,
Hiroshan.
Nipuni?
No, I think we covered the basics of it. So yes, we will send the recording of this event and also the Google form via email probably tomorrow. So please take time to read it, maybe look at what we talked about again, and connect with us on social media. You can message us on LinkedIn and Instagram, or email us on designact.org@gmail.com. So we will try our best to get back to you if you have more questions. And thank you very much to Alifiya, Amani, Dharana, Hiroshan, of course, and Piyum and Piyum for sharing your stories with us. And I'm sorry it took a bit more time than we anticipated. Thank you everybody for spending your Friday night with us here in Sri Lanka, and Friday morning half around the world, to Hiroshan and everybody else there, and anybody else who's not joining us from Sri Lanka. So I'm gonna hang around for a little more just to have a chat with anybody who wants to. But if not, this is the end of our program for today. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, everyone.